Sup my awesome Mad Dads, my name is Mad Dog and welcome back to another episode of What If Five Nights at Freddy's collabed with real fast food convenience along with other venues as well. We are now up to episode 6 of the series, and like I said before, last episode we did Time Zone. We're going to be doing something a little bit similar to Time Zone, but this time we're going to be focusing in the areas of just plain arcade areas. Now, it just really depends on like what arcade areas you exactly expect, because technically speaking, there's basically a lot of arcades around the area that, sometimes you just have no idea what the names are of these, and sure, Time Zone may be potentially one of those kind of arcades because some of them may have arcade games alone. But in a sense of reality, we are just talking about overall general arcades. Now, I know that sounds a little bit bland when I talk about it like that, but to be fair, there's definitely tons and tons of freaking types of arcades that you can actually apply. Pretty much everywhere that you go when it comes to arcades, you'll just see one arcade here and one arcade there, and basically just a whole other bunch of arcades everywhere. But it just really all depends on where you're from and, how close you live near them, basically. Now, I actually thought about two ideas and who actually could be able to collab with any type of arcade just overall. My original idea for this type of thing, when I actually wrote this down years ago, when I had this sort of idea come up into my head, was actually Popgoes. Because, let's think about it. Popgoes technically has a few games over the years created by King Carter. And the guy's an absolute legend. He's created so many Popgoes games, it ain't funny. To the original Popgoes games, to one of the other Popgoes arcade games, especially with the very current Popgoes arcade game that has actually been going on for the last few years. Now, I actually have the game, by the way. I actually do have this version of the Popgoes arcade game, by the way. I just haven't been around to actually doing a series. And plus, I haven't even actually started it. Well, I have started it, but the roadmaps of this game is just absolutely confusing. You can't even tell where to go unless you actually read the directions of the NPCs. And of course, if you want, I do have another Popgoes games that is actually coming to mind, which is my Popgoes. Any chances that you actually want to at least see any of those Popgoes games, let me know down in the comments, because I already know which game I'm going to be playing next when it comes to specifically Popgoes. Anyways, continuing on with actually Popgoes overall in general, taking for the example of Popgoes Arcade for instance, well, it's basically an overall just arcade game. Literally, you're actually at an arcade cabinet literally playing this as an actual arcade game. And to be fair, you could actually probably put this game in so many different arcade locations, if I'm being completely honest, if King Carter were to be up to the challenge. Not saying that it's completely going to be official, I'm just letting that idea just open. Popgoes has been really extremely popular, especially when it comes to being a Fnaf fan game, and to be fair, I mean, it's probably a good choice to have a guy like Popgoes, the character, around. Especially if you actually create an actual animatronic version of Popgoes the Weasel. Maybe you could have like the regular source to actually create a Popgoes animatronic just for that sake of that reason. And to be honest, I feel like that one animatronic alone could pretty much be probably it. Now, I know that there's like plenty of other animatronic characters in Popgoes. We got the Chipmunk sisters, for example. We've got, Stone the Crow, and a few other bird animatronic characters, by the way, as well. Don't forget that. And also, let's not forget that the toy animatronics are somewhat related to Popgoes in some capacity, same shape or form. You can see in this description right here that when it comes to the Popgoes games, they are actually somewhat related and connected to not just the Five Nights at Freddy's canon lore, but also the Five Nights at Candy's lore, which that's a very interesting thing to talk about, which that'll probably be a whole different video alone in itself if I ever decide to have the time to talk about it. But yeah, also adding the toy animatronics may be a little bit too much, because we already have a lot of, because I think that Popgoes alone is probably the best animatronic. Stone the Crow would be a funny choice because he always holds like a sign that always indicates something that is that's going to happen, which is kind of funny. It's kind of like breaking the fourth wall. The Chipmunk sisters, I feel like people will be a little bit too attached, if you get what I mean. Oh, and let's not forget about Simon. Now, Simon could be a good choice, actually, as well, to be fair. Technically, Simon is like a prototype version of William Afton, because, you know, he's like a purple endoskeleton that literally looks like a human skeleton. It's so creepy, yet it looks so fascinating to me. I've always had a bit of a fascination with this guy, because he actually is one of the most interesting characters in the Popgoes lore. And I hope that one day, when we actually get some of the actual Popgoes games that King Carter is actually working on, we might actually be able to see it. Because I know for a fact that, you know, Simon is probably going to be the main enemy of that game again. And also, you could probably put him as well. Like, have Popgoes versus Simon, for example. Just have the two out, like, statues or something. Just, like, they just feel like they're about to duke it out or something like that. To be honest, that would be pretty cool. And also, let's not forget to mention the fact about Shadow Bonnie, or in this case, in Popgoes games, the Black Rabbit. Yes, I know, Shadow Bonnie kind of pretty much makes a somewhat formidable return, I guess, into the Popgoes lore. Though in this case, he's pretty much put into pieces, which, by the way, is a very interesting concept. Kids might actually enjoy this one from what I'm about to say here. You could take notes on this one, King Carter, because you might be a little bit interested. Say that you actually walk into an arcade, right? You walk to just a natural arcade, and then you actually realize, like, who is that guy? Is that Popgoes? Or, like, you know, who is this weasel-looking guy? And then all of a sudden you also get to see, you know, who is this skeleton man over here that looks like purple guy from the original FNAF, right? You know, sure, they may be questioning it, but then you have a bit of an extra little activity that the kids can actually do. Building the Black Rabbit, aka Shadow Bonnie. And just like how Popgoes in the original game states, that Popgoes actually does build the Black Rabbit. He actually builds the Black Rabbit into different pieces. You gotta grab all the different pieces of the Black Rabbit and put them back together. No pun intended, but no pun intended at the exact same time. And then maybe when all the children, like, you know, gather up all the body parts to the Black Rabbit, you, like, maybe, you know, the eyes on his face might lit up, for instance. They might light up into a white kind of thing, and he might just make, you know, some technological, shadow-like noises or something like that. I feel like that would be pretty fun. Just a little bit of something that the kids could actually do. Of course, do not make the freaking animatronic come to life, because that will be absolutely way too terrifying. Let's be real. Just give them a few pieces of the make some pieces of the animatronic, and just, I don't know, make them have like magnets, for example. Like, give them, like, make it probably like magnetic body parts, for example, and then just give them like the glowy eyes, for instance. And then, yeah, there you go, problem solved. Do not make it a freaking bloody suit or anything like that, because otherwise that'll take things way too far. So yeah, not too hard, not too complicated, pretty simple yet very effective. You could probably even put some of the, like, again, Popgoes Arcade, the previous games that you have, or even some other spin-offs that creators have actually taken inspired of Popgoes and created fan games of those in particular. I'm pretty sure I remember one game in particular. I'll just show it on screen right now. But overall, this, as I said, this was my original idea to thinking about just having, you know, a collaboration of, like, just with general arcade games or arcade venues. However, this is when I actually came up with the idea just literally not too long ago this year, and I actually thought to myself, this could also be another good idea as well. Specifically, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. Now, I know what you're thinking. This may not exactly be the best idea, but it kind of sort of is. It just depends on what type of stuff you can actually add in, for example. Think about it. You got some few mini games that you could possibly play in, specifically from FNAF 6, right? Right. You got, first off, the security puppet, for example, which brings up a mini game of the puppet where you have to make sure that kids don't go through the door until you have the secret ending, where Charlie is then, of course, you know, the one kid missing, and then the puppet goes near her, and then Charlie's soul is then attached to the puppet. Then you got the Fruity Maze. The Fruity Maze would actually make a lot of sense here, because this is very much like of an arcade game, but it does kind of get darker every time, so you might want to rethink about a few things on that one, I think. You got Candy Cadet that could potentially give you stories, so it's like you can just give him coins, for example, and then probably give you candy while also telling all the stories that it basically knows from the past games that when it's basically been recently alive, like in FNAF 6, Security Breach Ruin, and of course Help Wanted 2. And of course, how can I forget the one and only other arcade machine that also has the most popular minigame that everyone tries to freaking debunk in the FNAF lore, Midnight Motorist. This game is almost addictive as trying to solve the FNAF lore itself, with trying to figure out every single secret. I mean, you can't be wrong there. I can't be wrong there. You can't be wrong there. I mean, even the game itself has just become so freaking popular. Why not put that freaking minigame inside an actual arcade venue? I mean, it just makes so much sense, right? People think that it'll just be a regular arcade game, but when you notice the part when you go all the way to the Lost Lab and find that secret exit, that's when things get a little interesting. I find, which, to be fair, it is also kind of hilarious, because a lot of people would just get so addictive until if anyone who does not know what the FNAF lore is all about, they'll discover that secret passage, which will be absolutely hilarious. They'll just think that it's like, oh hey, wait, I just unlocked a bonus level or something like that. That's what a lot of people would think, right? So they'll just be thinking that it's just a regular game, which I find absolutely hilarious. Not in a mean way or anything like that, but it's kind of funny that they'll just have no clue, like, you know, they just think that it's just a regular, you know, arcade game. That's just basically all there is to it. Along with some of the other mini games that you can actually put, like, you know, Helpy with the ball pit, or even RoboCop, for example, or I think it's Egg Baby. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. There's the clowns, for example, that you could also get drinks, which actually, to be fair, that would be pretty cool. Having those kind of drinks, like the clown punch or whatever, or the fruit punch clown, whatever you actually call them, that would be actually a pretty good addition. You could also have that little own Helpy as well, for instance. Now, when it comes to the animatronics, now, I know what you're thinking, that probably also having some animatronics might actually be a good idea. Like I also said about, like, the security puppet, you could possibly add in the original, you know, Rockstar animatronics, like Rockstar Freddy, Rockstar Bonnie, Rockstar Chica, and Rockstar Foxy. Maybe Lefty, but I feel like that's going to be way too creepy, so maybe just stick it with just the Rain 4 if you're just going to be putting those characters in, specifically in, you know, arcade venues. Just having the main 4 basically in lines of arcade venues could be very fun, and maybe just a little bit of entertainment of music, songs, and whatnot could be possible. Just make sure that you don't have Rockstar Freddy say, please deposit 5 coins. Now, also especially in just an extra, just before I actually finish off this video, I was also thinking about Fnaf World. Now, if you of course remember a lot about Fnaf World, if you know Freddy's Adventure, which is basically the original version of Five Nights at Freddy's World, before they did the 3D renders of each of the animatronic models. And yet, to be fair, I feel like this would also make a lot of sense as well. I mean, I guess it's a lot more kid-friendly when you think about it, because considering the fact that these versions are also, you know, more miniature and less terrifying. Plus, regardless of the adventure itself, there are like tons of mini games that you could also do throughout the entire game of Fnaf World, especially when it came to the Halloween update. I'm pretty sure that I don't need to go through all of them, because I'm pretty sure you are already aware which ones I'm talking about. The same thing goes for even like the FNAF 3 minigames, for example, Stage 1, Balloon Boys minigame, Toy Chica's Party, so on and so forth. In fact, there are pretty much a ton of arcade-like minigames out there that you can literally pretty much try to add them at least as minigames, which is also another thing. Pretty much, like, you can add them into actual arcade machines themselves, like, literally. I'm not even kidding when I say that. Even if they don't even technically look like actual arcade cabinets, it still pretty much works out fine if you ask me. But going back into FNAF World for even an instance right there, I don't know if probably making several thousands of freaking adventurer versions of the animatronic characters from FNAF World is that much of a good idea. You could probably add in the main cast, for example, or maybe just have maybe some of the odd-looking ones, for instance. You have like DD, Lolbit, or even Yendo, for instance, which would be pretty cool. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, those would be pretty fun. At least they'll be kind of, at least they're like small and child-sized, I guess, to a certain extent. But maybe, of course, don't create the entire cast because that'll be way too difficult and plus absolutely way tiring. But can be still fun though, nonetheless. Anyways, I think that's it and for this episode right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. What do you guys about this idea? What do you think? Let me guys know in the comments below. Do you think that just having either one of those three kind of options, Popgoes, FNAF 6, or Fnaf World would be good to just collaborate with like just general arcade venues? Do you think that they might be a pretty good match, or could there be other pretty good ideas that you actually might have on for you of yourselves? Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to never miss a video. And as always, my name is Mad Dog. Be safe, stay healthy, and may your days be mad and rad!